Did you know, as part of its world-class value management platform, ecosystems can build value realization capabilities directly into your product or service itself, allowing it to not only calculate, but also communicate realized value directly with customers on an ongoing real-time basis, all without any human intervention at all. With Eco Inside, value realization isn't just about your product, it actually is your product. Find out more on our website at ecosystems.io. And now, on with the breakdown. Across 20 years now of doing advisory work for B2B marketing and B2B sales, I've had the incredible privilege, the humbling privilege of working with very senior executives across some of the world's biggest, best-known brands and companies, and small companies, medium-sized companies, you name it. Just an incredible diversity of organizations and individuals and industries and go-to-market models. You name it. At this point, it seems like I've talked to just about every possible version of sales you might possibly imagine. And so I might be a typical day on the phone with a head of sales in banking, and then shortly thereafter, maybe the chief revenue officer, head of sales enablement in pharmaceuticals, and then med device, and so on. And what's really interesting is, despite all of that diversity of geographies and roles and industries and go-to-market models, the conversations seem, it's funny, to almost always start at the exact same point or the exact same observation on the side of all those different individuals. And it usually starts with some version of the comment of, Brent, I'm really looking to get your input on this, but I just got to tell you, at our company, in our industry, we're really, really different, because we're all incredibly convinced that our company, our culture, our go-to-market model, our challenges are all just fundamentally different than what any other company out there is facing. And the really fascinating thing about this isn't so much the comment itself, but whatever happened next, because whatever happened next almost inevitably was then a narrative, a sharing of a story, of a perspective, a challenge that literally sounded exactly like the same challenge that I just heard 2 hours earlier from a completely different company in a completely different industry. And that was an incredibly important and powerful lesson for me over all of these years, is to learn that despite all of our seeming and perceived differences, we're really actually more the same than we are different, not just as businesses, but as human beings, right? And I think why that matters in our space is because, we tend to think, for example, that how we go to market, how our company operates, because it's so different, that we can't learn from others, or we can't learn from one customer to another. We tend to under-index on the applicability and the relevance of lessons learned elsewhere for our organization or our particular challenge. And that's where I think it gets, really, really interesting, because we see, for example, heading into 2024, one of the big trends for the coming year might be, in fact, I've seen versions of this, an increasing focus on verticalization. So we need to go to market around one particular industry vertical, whatever that vertical might be, because of course that industry, not just we're different, but that industry is different. So we have to think about how we go to market, and the messages and the expertise and the domain expertise that we create and deliver in that market has to be very specialized, such that we are seen as more trusted and more relevant. And that may be true to some extent. I simply don't want to negate the value of a verticalized strategy, but I think in focusing on all the ways that particular target segment or target industry might be different, we tend to overlook the power of finding the similarities between that set of customers and all of the other customers that we might operate with elsewhere. For that matter, companies like ours might operate with elsewhere. Because when you start to find those common challenges, what you find is this really compelling story of the human side of business to business, where much of the challenge of selling and buying, frankly, I think actually occurs. It's hard for customers to buy in manufacturing, not because it's manufacturing, but because there's 20 people, and it's just hard for 20 people to find common ground across objectives and tactics and metrics and targets and timelines. And they struggle with that not because they're in manufacturing, they struggle with that because they're human beings. And if we can understand and begin to index a little higher on this human element and learn the lessons of how do I help this person connect better with that person across these dimensions in such a way that they have more perspective and common understanding, that, or common perspective, common understanding, that they can reach a common viewpoint, then that becomes a powerful thing, not because it allows us to sell better into pharmaceuticals or financial services, but because it helps us better guide other fellow human beings on their journey of trying to make progress against a really tough challenge. And so while I don't think that there's anything quote unquote wrong with a verticalization strategy, I do wonder if in pursuing some sort of strategy around industries, or just a viewpoint around we're different or they're different or this is different or that different, that in overlooking or under indexing on the similarities and the common bonds that we all have, we actually overlook our biggest opportunity to be most helpful to our customers, which isn't to help them understand how to buy from the government or sell to the government. It isn't how to understand the government regulations in this particular financial services sector. It isn't how to understand this particular demographic of customer buying. It's to help them understand how to just make sense of the world that they live in, how to navigate complex decisions with their colleagues, how to align around a common vision of what's valuable in the first place. These are things that we can help every single one of our customers with, irrespective of industry vertical, irrespective of how different they might be, how different they might perceive themselves to be. And I know this because it's what I've been doing for 20 years. So as we think about heading into 2024, and whatever your go-to-market model might be, and however different you might think your organization might be, I would encourage all of us to take a moment and ask ourselves the exact opposite question, which is what happens when we're all so different, but what if at the heart of everything, we're all kind of the same? Because in that sameness is a power, and it's a power to be helpful, and it's a power to be more empathetic. And I think that is, not just a way to make the world just a little bit better, a better place and connect with each other. It's actually a way to help customers make better buying decisions and ultimately drive growth. It is possible to do the right thing on the human level and do the right thing on the commercial level all at the same time. But to do that, we need to find not our specialized uniqueness, but our common bond.